Captain's log. Stardate August 26, 2022. I've been trying to figure out why I have started keeping bees and tending chickens in the last few years, and why I enjoy it so much. If you'd known me growing up, it might surprise you to see me taking care of bees, particularly because I was scared to death of them, but also because I grew up in a family that was very academic. And I don't mean that in any derogatory way. I still consider myself an academic. The focus in my family was excelling at school. My dad was an attorney. He'd been an assistant solicitor general for the United States under Rex Lee. He was a brilliant attorney. He liked working with his mind. He didn't like working with his hands. His idea of roughing it was a night at the Marriott. And part of success for him was being able to pay people to come in and do the manual work around the house, to fix the house, to provide the food. He just didn't enjoy it. And so I grew up in that milieu. And it was a great place to grow up. Great childhood. My parents were loving and kind, and they really did instill in me a love of learning, of knowledge, of learning almost just for learning's sake. Because the more you know, the more well-rounded and interesting a person you are. And so that was my life. I grew up, did pretty well in school, went to college, got my undergraduate in journalism. Realized I didn't want to be a journalist, so went to my dad one day and said, I don't know what to do with my life. And he said, well, you like writing, you like thinking, why don't you become a lawyer? And so I said, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So I applied to law school, absolutely loved law school, graduated in 2005, I think. Yes, 2005. And I've now been practicing law for, 17 years. It's still how I make my living. But about 2 years ago, or a little over 2 years ago, when the world went upside down, thanks to COVID, I found myself at home a lot with not a lot of work. And so I had to start thinking, what am I going to do to fill my time? Because if I don't have something to do, I'm going to panic. I would feel my heart race and my chest tighten up, and it was not a good feeling. And so I started just doing stuff with my hands. And I'd written a story a few years earlier, a Christmas story, in which I had studied and used beekeeping as an idea, and it had started to intrigue me. So I decided, well, let's give this a shot. So I got into beekeeping, partially because of what I had studied and found interesting, and partially to overcome my very irrational fear of bees. And I love beekeeping. I'm glad that, if COVID did anything good, it's encouraged me to do that, to overcome that fear and learn and grow. And once I'd done beekeeping for a while, I just thought chickens would be fun. So I got chickens. And I love my chickens. I love taking care of them. And this all just surprises me, because all of these hobbies require a lot of manual labor. And for me, they are hobbies. But they require a lot of manual work. You have to build a coop. You have to scrape out the poop. You have to put in new shavings. You have to check on the animals every day. You have to make sure they're healthy. And you have to get into a beehive and scrape off propolis and deal with sticky messes. And you have to deal with the reality of life and death on a level, because when you open up a beehive, you kill bees. You You're dealing with that stuff. And I started to wondering why. Why do I love this so much? Because it's not what I grew up doing. And I don't know. I think it's because the work seems real. The work seems honest. The work seems conceptually clear. You have an animal. It's dependent upon you to keep it alive, so you keep it alive. There isn't really any, well, there are. I mean, there's theories, there's ideas, but you get down and you do a simple, conceptually clear job. And if you do it well, the animals thrive. If you do it poorly, they suffer. And you know right away you've done a bad job. And doing that kind of work with my hands, frankly, has brought me more joy than working with my brain. When you're an attorney, I was a litigator for, well, I guess 15 years. Yeah, you're working with people. You're helping them resolve problems. But your work, the papers that you write, and really that's all that litigators do for the most part, is write epic research papers. Those papers are handed to a judge, and chances are no one will ever read them again. You write hundreds and thousands of pages, and they go into the court, and yeah, they're public record, but who's really going to dig up your motion for summary judgment on a dispute, on a contract dispute between a landlord and a tenant? Nobody. And you're always dealing with people who are angry. You're always dealing with emotionally fraught situations. People who want to beat the other person. And there's value in that. I understand. There absolutely is value in that. But it's hard emotionally to do work that seems to, resolve a problem one day and then be forgotten the next. And to do work that is so emotionally contentious. But when you're working with bees and chickens, there's something very tangible and real about it. And you get honey, and you get eggs, and you feed your family, and you keep the animals alive, and you sweat, and you get dirty, and you get happy.